This podcast is part of the Big Heads Media Podcast Network. Go to bigheadsmedia.com for more great podcasts.
Come on. Not over yet.
You are now tuned in to the Casual Colts Podcast, everything about the Indianapolis Colts with William E. Ricks. What's up? Hello, everybody. This is William E. Ricks, and welcome to another episode of the Casual Colts Podcast. Training camp is inching closer, and that means Colts football will be coming very, very soon. Woo! I'm excited. But in this episode, we're going to discuss some of Indy's biggest weaknesses heading into the 2021 season. We're also going to start our regular season series where we take an in-depth look at every game the Colts have. We're going to focus on weeks 1 and 2 this week, which features 2 games against NFC West powerhouses. Lastly, we'll talk about T.Y. Hilton and how he could be the key to Carson Wentz's success in Indy. We got plenty of Colts content for you, so let's get things going on the Casual Colts Podcast. You are now tuned in to the Casual Colts Podcast, so come as you are, and as always, keep it casual. Despite what many experts and analysts might think, the Colts have one of the more complete teams in the NFL. GM Chris Ballard grew his team from the inside out, acquiring anchors on both the offensive line in Quentin Nelson and the defensive line in DeForest Buckner. The quarterback situation seems to have the long-term solution in Carson Wentz, and Indy's three-headed monster of Marlon Mack, Jonathan Taylor, and Nyheim Hines fall right into the Colts' offensive scheme of run the damn ball. Darius Leonard leads the defense as he's a top 5 linebacker in the NFL. Yes, you heard that right. Kenny Moore II leads the secondary along with rising star Julian Blackmon. And stars shine bright on Indy's roster, but the team has also made sure that they have quality players behind them on the depth chart. From the first string to the third string, the Colts have solid players to get the job done. However, there are still some glaring weaknesses that the Colts have entering the 2021 season. Perhaps the biggest being at the left tackle position. I mentioned Anthony Castonzo's retirement in the first episode and how the Colts signed former Kansas City Chiefs tackle Eric Fisher as a potential replacement. But he's recovering from an Achilles tear and reportedly has no timetable for his return. There's no question Fisher is an above average blocker when on the field, but what are Indy's options until he's 100%? It looks like Sam Tevi or Julian Davenport will compete for the starting left tackle position entering training camp. There are nice replacement options, but I don't see them having sustained success over a 16-game season. There's a reason why they were free agents and signed deals that weren't all that lucrative. No offense to them, though. Understanding how a revolving door impacted Wentz's time in Philly and the revolving door being at the offensive line position, you'd think Indy would have done more to address this issue immediately. Chris Ballard has done some magic during his time in Indianapolis before. Maybe this is his next act, fixing the left tackle problem right under everyone's noses. There are a few other noticeable weaknesses for Indy's roster, and the secondary is one of them. After a strong start to 2020, the Colts secondary faded down the stretch. From countless PI calls to playing somewhat conservative coverages in questionable moments, it's somewhat unraveled for the defensive coordinator and Matt Eberflus and company. Rocky Ya-Sin struggled the most as he was the main target for opposing offenses all season, and I mean they picked on him constantly. But it's not entirely bad, as Xavier Rhodes returned to his old self with the team last season, and they re-signed him and TJ Carey, who was a decent slot defender, I should say. The way the Colts passing game finished the last season left a bad taste in everyone's mouths. So hopefully I end up being wrong about the secondary being a weakness for Indy. Despite the issues on the Colts depth chart, they still have stability at many of the key positions, making them a dark horse Super Bowl contender. Do you believe me? Doesn't matter, because I know it. But anyway, what we got next on the Casual Colts Podcast is a breakdown of weeks 1 and 2 of the Colts regular season schedule. We begin the 2021 season against 2 NFC West teams that have some pretty potent offenses. Come on back and see who I'm talking about on the Casual Colts Podcast. We'll be right back. Thanks for tuning in to the Casual Colts Podcast. I hope you're enjoying this episode's content, and stay tuned because we got much more stuff to get into. Don't touch that dial. The Colts start off the regular season against two NFC West teams, and their defense will be tested immediately to start out. The Los Angeles Rams and Seattle Seahawks both have potent offenses, so let's take a deeper look at the first two contests as we begin our regular season preview series. Indy will welcome the Seattle Seahawks into what should be a packed Lucas Oil Field for Week 1. They bring in an offense that is loaded with talent. As we all know, Russell Wilson is a superstar quarterback, but he also has DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett to throw the ball to, and both of those receivers are star-studded. They both had over 1,000 yards receiving and at least 5 touchdowns in 2020, which means one of Indy's weak spots will be tested to start the year. The Seahawks have Chris Carson at the running back spot, but the Colts shouldn't really be worried about him because their defense was and will be stout with Darius Leonard and DeForest Buckner leading the way. They allowed under 100 yards per game on the ground last year, which was top 5 in the NFL. And honestly, Seattle has film from last year, and they know we struggle in the passing game. So expect them to be right at Kenny Moore, Xavier Rhodes, and especially Rocky Sin. For the Colts on offense, they should be able to gain chemistry against what is an average Seattle defense. Their passing defense in particular was towards the bottom of the league last year, and they didn't do too much to bolster that area during the offseason. Wentz, T.Y. Hilton, Michael Pittman, and Zach Pascal should all have some kind of success against Seattle, especially if Jamal Adams holds out because of his contract. The Seahawks pass rush came alive late last season, and with Indy's issues at left tackle, they could exploit that. If Seattle does get pressure, turning to Mack, Taylor, and Hines will be a valuable backup plan. This game is a winnable game for the Colts, but it will fall on the defense if you ask me. The secondary will have to fend off Metcalf, Lockett, and the improvisational skills of Wilson. Even though it will be the first in-game action for Wentz in Indy's offense, I believe that his work in the offseason at OTAs and establishing himself as a leader on the team will shine through. The Colts start this season off with a gritty win at home, 27-23. In Week 2, Indy is home again, but faces another NFC West team in the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams acquired Matthew Stafford this offseason for Jared Goff, which is a considerable upgrade. With Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods as season targets, LA poses a challenge to the Colts secondary for a second straight week. And on defense, it doesn't get any easier because Los Angeles has Aaron Donald, the best defensive tackle in the league, and Jalen Ramsey leading the team. So that's no easy task for Frank Wright and Indy's offense to overcome. LA's defense was tops in the league last year, which could lead to problems for the Colts offense. If I'm being completely honest, Wentz a company, they might struggle. The Rams are a solid defensive unit at every level, and as much as I want them to beat the Rams, it might not happen. I'm just going to be real. It's going to be real. But it is a home game, so the Lucas Oil crowd could be an advantage for the team, especially in those high tense situations. The defense also needs to limit Cam Akers, who had a pretty impressive rookie season. I believe that despite the Rams' stout defense, the Colts' defense will also limit Matthew Stafford and the Rams. The Colts win a nail-biter, 20-17. Coming up next on the Casual Colts Podcast, we're going to look at T.Y. Hilton and how him returning to the Colts could be the key for Carson Wentz's resurgence in Indianapolis. Stay tuned. We got more exciting content coming. Don't turn us off yet. Thanks for tuning in to the Casual Colts Podcast. I hope you're enjoying this episode's content, and stay tuned because we got much more stuff to get into. Don't touch that dial. So it's obvious the biggest news for Indy this offseason was them acquiring Carson Wentz from the Philadelphia Eagles. But there was another move that they made that was big, but not getting as much attention. T.Y. Hilton re-signed with the team for a 1-year, $10 million contract. And he started the 2020 year slow, but he ended it on fire with over 400 yards and 5 touchdowns in the last 6 regular season games. That exceptional ending to a season was probably why the Colts felt confident enough to bring him back for at least one more year. And acquiring Wentz probably played a part too, for Hilton at least. Believe it or not, having Hilton in Indy is huge for the team. Even though he's in his 30s, he still has the speed and shiftiness to blaze past defenders. He gives the team a reliable option at receiver, as Pittman and Pascal has had some issues with consistency. Paris Campbell has battled various injuries since they drafted him, and he hasn't played too many games. If Hilton can perform how he did down the stretch of 2020, he could be a valuable asset to Wentz's resurgence. His ability to throw deep balls fall right into Hilton's strength. They've established chemistry during offseason programs, and that could lead to big things this season. He's speedy, he's a veteran, he's reliable, and he's a leader. Hilton's presence as the old man in the receiving room will end up helping Carson Wentz rebound after his horrid season in Philly. Is T.Y. Hilton still a legit number one receiver in the NFL? I believe he is. He still has many of the capabilities, the speed, the hands, the reliability. I think he's still, honestly, a top 20 receiver in the league, if you ask me. But what do you think? Many say that he's not, from what I read and what I experience and who I talk to. What do you guys think? Is he a number one receiver? Let me know what you think by emailing me at casualcoltspodcast@gmail.com or hit us up on Twitter at Casual Colts Pod. The Ghost returns to Indy, and I believe he's ready to haunt opponents in 2021, and I can't wait to see it. Well, all right, everybody. That wraps up another episode of the Casual Colts Podcast. Once again, thank you to everybody who tuned in. You can catch past and future episodes wherever you listen to your podcast. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, probably forgetting about a bunch of others, but wherever you listen to podcasts, we're there. Or you can go to our Transistor site and subscribe to our podcast from there so you never miss an episode. So simple, right? Make sure to follow us also on Twitter at Casual Colts Pod. We have a YouTube page also, Casual Colts Podcast, and email me any topics or questions you might have at casualcoltspodcast@gmail.com. Thank you guys for listening. Have a great week, everyone. And as always, keep it casual and go Colts.